Hey everybody, Rob Ferrari here, and we're going to talk about just how much it cost me to rent out a Ferrari 458 for the last 15 months. Now, I'll just start by saying one of my least favorite things to do in the car industry is selling cars. It is, I don't want to say I'm short-tempered, I just don't have time for the nonsense. You list something for sale, everybody wants to buy it. Everyone wants to lowball, everyone wants to tell you what a crappy car you have. Everybody looks for every reason to nitpick and get the price down as low as possible. Very frustrating, lots of tire kickers. My least favorite thing to do. I made a video, which I always do. Hey, here's a car for sale. If anyone wants it, let me know. Bunch of people, I'm buying it. Here's how much I'm going to give you. None of that pans out. I sent it to auction. I gave everyone a shot. Then I sell it at auction, tell everyone what I got for it, and then 50 other people come out of the woodwork being like, I totally would have given you more than that, blah, blah, blah. Where were you when I was selling it last time? Very frustrating. It's like a vicious, I don't want to say a vicious cycle, just one of those things that really gets under my skin is selling our rental cars, or even selling my own cars, to be honest with you. But the stigma of a rental car is something, we can debate this all day long. I think that a car should stand on its condition alone. Simple as that. If it's a rental car and has a lot of rental use, you're going to see wear, you're going to see this, you're going to see that. But to devalue a rental car based on the fact that it was a rental car, whether it went out once or 20 times or whatever, is just nonsense. Because there's nothing stopping somebody from buying a Lamborghini that was used in the Lamborghini Esperanza, which had hundreds of people tracking it. But you know what? It shows up at the dealership, certified. Nobody's like, well, that was like treated like, even worse than a rental. It's all track use for the first 5,000 or 8,000 miles. That's one of those things that people don't associate. Well, okay, it was a Lamborghini company car. It was a press car. Press cars get the snot beaten out of them. Then you have a guy who just doesn't take care of his car, doesn't care about it, lets everybody in the world drive it. And it's not like, well, that guy, it was a one-owner car. Well, it was a one-owner car with 50 people driving it. It just very frustrating, and just that's behind us. Now let's get to what it cost me to own this car. Now, you'll remember I was listing the car, or I was going to list the car. I offered it up, and I was looking to get like 140, 145 out of the car. Wholesale was listed at 137.5. So I just wanted the wholesale plus a little twitch. And the 137.5 was adjusted for the mileage. It was in great condition, good color, good options, lift system, all the good stuff. But it was coming in at 137.5, adjusted down from 146, which is, if it had 18,000 miles, it would have been worth 146. It was a 2012 Ferrari 458 Spider with 27,500 miles. I ended up running it through auction. Through auction, we did disclose that it was a rental car, and we ended up selling it for 135 at auction, less fees, less the dealer vig for the guy who ran it through auction. We ended up netting 132. That's not that great, right? So how much did it cost me? Well, I bought it for 182.5, and I bought it from Ferrari of Denver, and I probably owe them an email because part of that price, I think I paid $177 plus $5,500 for the 1-year certified warranty. That's just something my leasing company wanted. I didn't think a Ferrari 458 that gets PPI'd needs a warranty. They're actually really reliable cars, and guess what? I was right. It did have a minor amount of service on it, but it was all nonsense, totaling a couple of $100s throughout the entire ownership period. And no matter how you look at it, the warranty wouldn't have been worth it. But when I brought it in for service to the dealership, they said it didn't even have a warranty on it, so I got to reach out to Ferrari at Denver and see if we can get to the bottom of why it didn't have a warranty on it. But ultimately, the cost of ownership is going to fall into a couple of places. And I'm not going to count insurance here because insurance is going to be, no matter what asset I have, there's going to be an insurance cost. The cost of ownership is depreciation, is maintenance, and then interest expense. So those are your costs of ownership. The maintenance, as I said, we put a set of tires on it. Car washes don't count, but let's just say maintenance came in at $1,500, right? Not a big deal. Gets amortized across all the rentals. We put 15,000 miles on the car. So like $1,500 for, that's 10 cents a mile. That's absolutely nothing. You should go out and buy a 458 because 458s are great cars. I'm going to scream that till the end of time. I think the 458 may be the last best naturally aspirated Ferrari that they've made, and they're super reliable, and that's what's key. Anything after 2010 became much more reliable than all previous Ferrari generations, including that one, which I'm having a lot of luck with, as I have with my other Ferraris. During my ownership, unfortunately, as you saw in the last video, there was a blown motor in one of the cars that I used to own 8 or 10,000 miles after I sold it. But such is life. Again, we don't know the story behind that. But 458s are well worth it. The biggest expense that I had, or actually we'll get to the interest expense, I bought it for $182,500. I put like $46,000 down. Fees, BS. I borrowed $146,000 on the car and then sold it for obviously $132,000. But the interest expense was $18,000. I'm rounding this stuff up. But $18,000 for 15 months, that's a lot. So you start adding that up. And then the single largest expense that we had was the depreciation. Now, obviously, you can do the math. It's over $50,000 in depreciation in 15,000 miles. And you can see the variance very simply, even on the retail side. If we didn't put all those miles on it, that car would have held its value much better. And that's a big thing with Ferraris. When you start stacking miles, more so than Ferrari, just all these exotics, the miles are probably the single biggest killer as far as carrying expense when you're talking about used Ferraris or used exotics, because mileage affects the value significantly. Now, I don't consider a 27,000 mile car high mileage. I would simply go out and buy one. I think that's a great mileage in which to own it. You're getting a car that's been driven, that's a driver's car, and you're not getting the low mile, the 3,000 to 5,000 mile collectible car. But putting that many miles on it, now granted, we made money on it. We rented it out. It net it net enough to justify, obviously, it being in the fleet. But the cost associated with it, I feel like we really took one to the chin, depreciation-wise on this. And there's cars that we get away with. You could put miles on them, Porsches and other cars that don't depreciate. They're not as mileage sensitive. But you start adding this stuff up. It's $50,000 in depreciation. You got roughly $20,000 in interest, and then $2,000 in maintenance. So you're at about $75,000, $76,000. Don't do the math. I'm doing it in my head, but it is actually $75,000 or $76,000. I forgot to mention that it was a 12-month lease. We extended it for 3 months to put it through the usable season. And that's stuff that I forgot. And there's times where you start doing things in your head and you're like, oh, cool, yeah, the option was a year lease or a 2-year lease, but we bought it in July. And the problem with buying something in July is that means our lease is going to end in July, which is peak season. Why would I sell a car in peak season? Now I'm going to start another lease. The idea is to have a car throughout the peak season and then sell them in the off season. So that's something I learned. You know, I don't want to say growing pains. I've been doing this for a long time, but I didn't plan well enough. And the fact that you can extend the lease or buy out the car at the end of the lease is how we solve those problems. The best bet in the future is probably to just pay it off and then ride that extra couple of months. Yes, it's a lot of cash out of your pocket to pay it off, but you get to ride those extra couple of months and then sell it. And unfortunately, when we do sell cars, it's legitimately the worst time to sell cars. Selling cars going into the winter, cars are worth, let's just say, cars over $100,000, at least 5% less. And then on a car of that caliber, 5% or 10% could be a lot of money. It could be like $10,000, $15,000. So there you have it. We're about $75,000 for 15,000 rental miles or 15,000 miles of use. About 14,000 of those are probably paid. And then the other 1,000 is like gas station, service, going to and from dealerships, alignment, whatever it is. But 14,000 miles of use results in about $75,000 worth of cost. I don't know if you would have guessed that at the beginning, but that's the hard truth. And that's it. That's all I've got for you. How do I lower that in the future? you could sort of buy a little bit better. I don't really buy wholesale. Buying it at the dealership without the warranty is one way to go. Or not buying it at the dealership. Buying it wholesale versus through a dealership is one way to go. Lowering the cost of borrowing by just fronting all the money if I eventually have enough money in the company, or when I eventually have enough money in the company to own each car in cash. That will save the interest expense. It'll also give greater flexibility in buying and selling. And the depreciation, I mean, maintenance was virtually nothing. So virtually nothing. It's hard to get any better than that. There you go. Hope I answered your burning question about what it cost. If you want to buy another one of our cars, the next one up, both the Porsche and the AMG are about to get listed going into December now. Again, please save me if you're not a serious buyer, please don't email me. But if you are, rob@superspeeders.com. I will list these up probably on eBay for a week and then off to the auction, and they will have the same fate as the Ferrari. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. For those of you not familiar with my other company, I started a company called Adventure Drives, which combines driving and bucket list travel. It's a lot of fun. If you're interested, prices can be done per person. Don't worry if you don't have somebody to go with you, we can match you up with somebody. You can check the link in the description for adventuredrives.com and sign up today.